As many of you approach or have approached driving age, you know that you're not automatically given a car. Future drivers must spend time to become drivers so they don't crash. We license drivers so they don't hurt others. Why should parenting be any different? Resolve that the U.S. government should establish a parent licensing program. A parent is defined by Merriam-Webster's dictionary as one that begets or brings forth offspring, or a person who brings up and cares for another. Currently, the only programs the United States regulates for parents are court-mandated parenting classes that require parents, such as teen mothers, to parents charged with abuse or neglect take parental education classes. Most of these classes are taken online, and these classes have no standardized curriculum. Even so, these parenting classes are better than the current alternative, nothing. However, the problem with these classes is that rarely do first-time parents that are not required to take such classes willingly sign up for parenting classes. And why should they? These classes charge money. These classes also do not have teachers or instructors. Rather, they rely on a computer and aren't made well known to the public. The United States government needs to establish parental education classes for first-time parents because without it, children are abused and neglected, are more likely to abuse and neglect their own children, and because programs like licensing parents are already mandatory for foster parents. As stated before, parents with newborns to children of preschool age are not required to read as so much as a single page on parenting. How are these parents supposed to know how to take care of their children? The National Center on Shaken Baby Syndrome estimates that up to 1,500 children a year suffer from a severe injury or fatality from shaken baby syndrome, a term for the internal head injuries a baby or young child sustains from being violently shaken. About 25 of these children, or 375 children, suffer a fatal injury. Why does shaken baby syndrome occur? Some parents were mistakenly instructed to shake their babies gently due to incessant crying. Some parents were just frustrated. There are many different reasons why parents shake their babies. However, all lead back to a lack of parental education. There are so many myths about child rearing that it can be hard for parents to decide how they want to raise their children. Shaken baby syndrome is one of the kinds of easily prevented abuse the affirmative wishes to stop through parental education classes. Still not convinced? How many non-parents here know how frequently a child has to get a checkup at the doctor's? How many non-parents here know at what temperature is a fever? How many non-parents here know how often a baby must be fed? These are exactly the types of things that lead to the 1,500 reported accidental deaths of children that happen yearly and could be easily prevented by establishing a parent licensing program. Why wait until something has gone wrong to establish classes for parents? We must start now. The U.S. Department of Health and Services estimates that 905,000 children are abused or neglected each year. What is child abuse and neglect? As defined by Help Guide, an online nonprofit website, child abuse is defined as ignoring children's needs, putting them in an unsupervised, dangerous situation, or making the child feel worthless or stupid. And child neglect is defined as a pattern of failing to provide for a child's basic needs, whether it be adequate food, clothing, hygiene, or supervision. What happens to these abused and neglected children? For starters, the U.S. Department of Health and Services states that the abused will become the abuser, estimating that of the abused that have children, 1/3 of these children are estimated to be abused by their formerly abused parents. This suggests that there is a cycle of abuse in our country, that we as a country must stop. How do we stop abuse and neglect? Education. Without proper education as what abuse and neglect are, we are setting up generations of abuse and neglect because some parents just don't know how to be good parents. The United States requires foster parents, a person who acts as a parent or guardian for a child in place of the child's natural parents, without legally adopting the child, to get a foster parent license, which requires several parenting classes to ensure children placed in these new families will not be abused or neglected. Does it make sense to let anybody raise a child without education? If the United States recognized that parents need to be educated in order to prevent abuse, why do we allow parents to raise their children by themselves for the first 5 years until their child enters kindergarten of the child's lives? Unprepared parents lead to an unprepared generation. where the abused becomes the abuser, and the vicious cycle must stop now. The only way to stop this cycle is education. We must educate today's parents on how to raise children, because without parental education, hundreds of thousands of children are abused and neglected each day. To argue against parent licensing and education classes is to argue against our country's children. Thank you.
You're welcome.